Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the July 9th, 2024 Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeals Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Members Allen and Christopher Caldwell,
Here.
Luis Garcia,
Here.
Ebony Hemphill,
Present.
Susan Stapleton,
Here.
Larry Tolbert.
Present.
Thank you.
Oh, me. Barb Miller.
Barb.
I'm back in.
Barb Miller?
Yes.
Thank you.
As this is an evening where we will be hearing an appeal, I close the regular meeting before opening the appeal hearing. I have one brief announcement, and that is to recognize that Vice Chair Garcia, who was on a 3-month leave of absence during his second term with the board, his term originally was to end at the end of August 2024, but to compensate for that leave of absence, his term has now been extended through November 30th, 2024. At this time, I'd like to open the appeal hearing for PCR 2024-0001.
Madam Chair and Board, on January 7th, 2024, Deshane Reed filed a PCR complaint with the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. Mr. Reed alleged he was improperly profiled and harassed during a traffic stop that occurred on January 6, 2024. The complaint was assigned to Inspector Chuck Mason from the Office of Professional Standards for investigation. The investigation was closed on March 20th, 2024. The Chief's Office reviewed the report and cleared the involved officers of the complainant's allegation. The complainant was notified of the Chief's findings and has chosen to appeal the findings to the City Manager. The City Manager has referred this appeal to the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board and requests a disposition recommendation. This appeal is before you this evening.
Thank you. Before we get to hearing from the appellant and our public safety folks, do all members present have a digital or printed copy of the appeal packet before you?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any member of the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board who is unable to render an unbiased opinion on this appeal due to a relational, financial, or any other conflict of interest?
No.
No conflicts. Thank you. The order of the appeal will be, we will hear first from the appellant, Mr. Reed, and why they disagree with the Chief's determination of unfounded regarding the complaint. At the conclusion of the appellant's presentation, board members will then have the opportunity to ask the appellant for clarification or any additional detail. After hearing from the appellant, we will hear from the investigator, who will describe the investigation that was undertaken to inform the Chief's findings. At the conclusion of the investigator's presentation, board members will again have an opportunity to ask for clarification or additional details from the investigator. The appellant has requested that the hearing is open to the public. While the hearing is open to the public, we request that there are no outbursts of any kind. While there not be an opportunity for public comments during the hearing, all regular Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board meetings are open to the public and offer an opportunity for public comment on any topic. After hearing from the appellant and the investigator, the board will then adjourn and go into a closed deliberation, and the public, as well as the appellate, will be excused. At the conclusion of its deliberation, and within 14 business days of the close of the hearing, the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board will prepare a written report to be submitted to the City Manager with a recommendation to sustain or amend the Chief's findings. The city manager shall then have a final authority to sustain or amend the chief's findings and will notify the appellant of the determination no later than 14 days after receipt of the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board recommendation. And at this time, I'd like to ask the appellant, Mr. Reed, to prepare and present the appeal.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to start off by reading my complaint, please. I wrote it. I went to the Shell's gas station and I was racially profiled, stalked, harassed by officers in an uncivilized manner due to their selfish desire approach instead of a lawful standpoint of lawful use of authority. For example, just a traffic stop because light was out on my license plate instead of stalking and watching me and just wanting to come after me. And then also, I would like to read what they wrote me back and everything, and also statements that they put down. It said that, let's see. A stop was made on my vehicle for a lawful reason because my light was out. But then also it stated that down at the bottom, another statement that they had put, I was stopped. You were stopped as part of this effort. Curb mobile nuisance parties and the gun violence associated with them. And it said, though it is clear you were not involved in these activities, we cannot fault the officer for not knowing that prior to the stop, meaning that, you know, before they even pulled me over to stop me for that light, that they was already profiling me in those manners, because it stated that this was prior, meaning that it was before the stop. And so also, you know, on the professional standard paper, he put down that you stated in your complaint that the involved officers harassed and racially profiled you on the night of January 6th. And it says, and the investigation found that that was not the case. But again, also if you go back here, it stated that you were stopped as part of this effort, curb mobile nuisance and party and gun violence and things like that. And that was prior, you know, before the stopping me to say that I was pulled over for my light and everything. And then also I even asked the officer why I was getting pulled over. He kept on complaining, stating that he pulled me over for my light being out on my plate. And I seen him across the street already behind the building of the Mercedes-Benz place. I was parked on this side, so the street of Westnich was right here. I was just at the gas pump, and I was brushing my hair and everything, getting my hair together and stuff like that. And so I seen them over there sitting in the back. They was like, you know, parked over there trying to, you know, not be seen and things like that. So then they waited until I left. And then, you know, as I was leaving, that's when they started coming. So then it's almost like, you know, you can come at the same time, and then that way they know they'll be able to get right behind me. But like I said, also, they already stated that they wanted to come after me. And that's the same thing I wrote in my report, even before knowing that what they was gonna say in this statement. Because it also, they statement that they wanted to come after me, not because of my light. They stating that too. And that's why I wrote the complaint, because they already had profiled me. And then also it stated that in here, the officers had no idea who was in your vehicle or who you were prior to making the traffic stop. So, you know, I just feel like I was racially profiled and things like that. And, they basically said I was profiled because they looked at me like I was a gun violence and things like that. And then, but it do says that though it is clear you was not involved in these activities, we cannot fault the officer for not knowing that prior to the stop. And, you know, and I just felt like, you know, they lied to me too. That was just a whole bunch of lying going on. To lie to me, acting like you pulling me over for a stop when you just wanted to come after me. You know, and things like this, you know, also situations happen, and these situations like this always happen where some people even get shot or killed just for being in this position because officers just want to come after you. But then when they come to court or when they got something to say, they making it seem like, oh yeah, it was just a regular routine stop, and that's all you have, because you don't have the facts, you don't have the truth of them just wanting to bother and mellow with that person anyway. And that's pretty much what I got to say.
Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there questions from the board?
Mr. Reed, thank you very much for your explanation. And I just got a question regarding at the end of the stop. Did you receive a citation in the end?
I did not receive a citation at all. Afterwards, like 2 days after I talked to the chief or the guy about my complaint, he kind of gave me the attitude that, you know, he don't see nothing wrong with my case and everything. So I just said, you know what, ain't no need to talk and things like that, because the first thing that he wanted to say was, yeah, we had these gas stations targeted, and I said, I don't got nothing to do with that and things like that. But also after that, they did write me a citation, and I went back down there and wrote them up for retaliation because I never received a citation or anything. And even before I left, talking to the officer, I said, if I'm getting a ticket or anything. I never got a ticket or anything. But I felt like, you know, after that day that I talked to that guy, which was the 9th on that Tuesday, you know, that's when the ticket came about. And also I looked at my paperwork. My court documents showed that it was issued on the 9th, and that's the same day that I talked to that guy. And most of the time when you get a ticket, well, from the past, I haven't got a ticket in a while. So most of the time when you get a ticket, it usually be like 10 days after the date that it was issued, which it said the 9th day that it was issued, and my court hearing was the 19th. So that made me think like, you know, maybe it's still the same, where it's 10 days after they issued. But it was basically saying that it was issued on the 9th. And the scene or the situation happened on the 6th and the 7th. So, you know, and I missed the court date, but they dropped it anyway. And, but I supposed to went back down there because they dismissed it, I think with prejudice or something like that, where it's able to be brought up. And I was going back down there because I wanted to dismiss, period, because I didn't get no ticket or no citation, and that shouldn't have been brought up on me. Because if it was, I should have been told that, or it should have been given to me. I didn't receive anything, and then no officer tell you that I was getting it.
Okay. Did you, when you said that you went to court, it was regarding this particular case?
Yeah, it was regarding this particular case.
Okay. And this case got dismissed in the end?
Yeah, it got dismissed in the end, but it got dismissed where I looked it up on Google, where it was basically saying like it still could be like, it could be brought up in some type of sense.
It can be brought up in some type of what?
In some type of sense, like it's a thing where it's called dismissed with prejudice or something like that, and
okay.
Without prejudice. And so mine was, you know, dismissed with the one where it was like, where if they wanted to bring it up or things like that. And I just didn't feel like that was right, because in that case, then I could have just got the ticket, you know, and then that would make sense.
that it basically got dismissed in a way that it can be brought up at a later date. Is that what you're saying?
It can be, yep, like it can be brought back up on me.
Okay. And in the evening of the incident, did the officer or officers, did they tell you that they couldn't issue a citation at the time?
No, he just said that I wasn't getting no ticket or anything. And
But they didn't inform you verbally either that you
Yeah,
could?
They verbally told me, like they constantly told me. And I even, right before I rolled off, I even asked them that. And then I even took off because at that time I didn't get the officer name and everything. I even took off and tried to catch up with the officer, but they took off so fast to where I couldn't catch up with the car to get the numbers off the vehicle. And so when I went down there and wrote my complaint, it was even a hard time where the woman said, you know, it was more work for her to do because she had to go and try to find that incident and things like that. And so, yeah, it was just, you know, a little difficult moment for her.
Were you given any type of proof of the contact at the time, like a case number
I
or?
wasn't given a case number or anything. I was just told, even at the end, all right, you're all good to go, Mr. Reed.
Okay.
Like no ticket, no nothing, just clear.
Okay. And sorry, I know that I'm taking up a lot of everybody's time, but I wanted to ask also, at the time that you were at the gas station,
Yes.
were you filling up with gas? Obviously, we don't have any cameras right now, so I don't know if we'll ever be able to see that, but what were
I can't
you?
remember if I had got gas or I just went in there or something like that. I'm also a member of that gas station.
Okay,
So where I got a gas card to that gas station and everything. So I go to Shell's gas station a lot to get my gas
okay,
because I get 5 cents or 10 cents off. I either go there or Speedway because they give you the 10 cents off or things like that.
okay. But that particular evening, you don't recall, but you were there purchasing something?
I believe I may have, I can't really, I don't recall, because I probably went there, and like I said, I pulled up, I know I was there doing my hair,
Okay.
so.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Other questions?
Just making sure, was the gas station open?
Yes,
Okay. And you were in the gas station lot for approximately how long?
maybe just long enough really to, cause it's kind of like I was doing my hair and, getting myself together and things like that. So, yeah, so I can't really say. I mean, you gotta brush your hair, you gotta put on a do-rag, things like that, so.
And when you pulled off and they stopped you for a light or something, did you investigate to see whether that light was actually off or not?
Yes, I did, because I even told the officer, I said, well, when you get done running my name and stuff like that, I'm gonna get out and check it out. Because at the time, I was already telling the other officer, like, I just feel like y'all just wanted to bother me. And like y'all just wanted to come out to me because they was over there parked. And then as I even turned the corner on the street where Up and Under is, you can see their lights because they was coming, they pulled off. Like as I pulled off, then that's when they start coming. So it can be like almost a thing where, they can get right behind me. Whatever way I had turned, they were gonna be able to come behind me. And then like I said, they was already, this is what they wanted. They wanted to come after me. It wasn't about no light. They stated it in the report that they stated it in the report that I was stopped as part of this effort. I was stopped because I was looked at as mobile nuisance parties and the gun violence associated with them things and things like that. And then it said, though it is clear you were not involved in these activities, we cannot fault the officer for not knowing that prior to the stop.
Yeah, my question was, did you investigate to see whether the light was out or not?
Yes, I did. And it was out.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? And could you explain to us again, you were in the gas station and they were across Westnedge behind a building?
Yeah, they was, in Shell's gas station, and then like, if you like right here, in the BP gas station right here, and you on the one-way, the Shell's gas station right there. Now, if you turn right here, and start turning right, Shell's gas station gonna be on your left, the Mercedes-Benz place is gonna be on the right. They was parked over in the cut part of it, where the other vehicles were. And I seen that, when I was brushing my hair and stuff, I seen one car on the side of the street right there on Westnedge pulled over. But then I also seen another police car, their car over there posted up as like they was watching and things like that. And then when I finally had left, that's when they started taking off. So if I take off, only thing that they was doing was they started, when I pulled out, then they started creeping through. So even when I turned right at that first corner, I can see they lights slowly coming up on the wall. So then that's when they came after me and just, found some way to pull me over.
So your car was facing towards the police?
Yep, it was, my car was facing towards the wall that was right there. Like it was facing down the one-way towards the one-way. So that's why I couldn't even, I'm like, you couldn't even see my license plate, like, even if it was out, because you all the way over there and we like a T. You can't see behind here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
At the time when you were at the gas station, what would you say that the gas station was pretty crowded or just like a normal day worth of
Just like a normal day.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You were at the gas station to buy something or purchase gas or something, or are you just hanging out at the gas station?
No, I believe that, I couldn't remember why I had pulled in exactly, but I know that when I did pull in, I probably went over there to talk on the phone or something like that, or I just couldn't remember. But I know when I got there, I wanted to get my hair and stuff together, so I started doing my hair. And pulled out my mirror and everything, and I'm brushing my hair. I was doing my hair, and it just took a little second to do my hair. But like I said, I'm a member at that gas station. I go there. Sometimes I post up flyers and stuff like that. They let me post up flyers for my nonprofit and things like that. Like this the gas station I go to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from the board for Mr. Reed?
Yeah, just make sure you're not coming after them because of this citation. You're actually saying that you were racially profiled.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to make sure I'm clear, you were not aware of your citation until after you made the complaint?
After 2 days, 2 days later, after I spoke with some guy who, me and him just wasn't, connecting because he gave me the attitude of like, he was just going with his officers and things like that. So I said, you know what, you just, gonna take up for him and, but I know what happened. I know why, I know that I was targeted and I knew that, they just wanted to come after me. And I got the evidence. They stated it in the report too.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. You were not given a ticket for open intoxicants.
No, sir.
You were not given a ticket for anything.
For anything.
you were told that you weren't going to receive a ticket or a citation for anything.
Yes, sir.
That was after you'd driven away, right, and you were stopped. And during that time that you were stopped, you were able to take a look at your tail light,
Yes.
and it says that you repaired the tail light on the spot. Is that right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was just somehow, you know, I went back there and I pressed the trying to take it out, but when I pressed it in, the light just popped on.
Okay.
So maybe
And
from a bump.
so after all of that time, when you drove away, you were under the impression you hadn't received a ticket, that you weren't going to receive a ticket.
Yes, sir. I even asked him at the end, right before I even pulled off. And he told me, "You're all good to go."
So you got something in the mail.
It came in the mail, but I wasn't expecting it because I wasn't given a ticket. I had no idea about it, so it was a surprising letter, like, you know, and I had no idea that I got a ticket. I was told that I wasn't getting a ticket. I never signed the paper. He never went to his car, brought it back. Hey, Mr. Reed, you want to show here on this date, you know, the usual things like that. Wasn't any of that. So, like, I missed the court date. And so I was like, dang, I got to go down here and try to go take care of this. Like, but then I ended up receiving another letter that said, you know, that they just took care of it at court without me being there, and saying that they dismissed it and things like that.
So as far as you knew, with the information that you received, your court date was dismissed, even though you missed it.
Yes, it would, because even though, yeah, on that day that they had it and they opened it up, they just dismissed it. And like I said, that was on the 19th of something. It was on the 19th of January.
Okay.
It was issued on the 9th, which, and like I said, it was at, the 9th was the day that I talked to the guy, for me and him to get along or something like that. And which he, you know, he was upset about me, I guess, writing it or whatever. And that was the day that somebody had just, you know, talked to me about it. Hey, I was just trying to get information about, you know, the complaint you wrote. You said that you felt like, you know, the officers had harassed you and things like that. And then the first thing he says to me, well, I just want to say that, you know, on that night we was targeting gas stations and targeted and these things and things like that. So, and I told him I don't have anything to do with that. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. So, and then he basically was clarifying that basically it wasn't about, I was just getting targeted. I was getting profiled.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the
Yes, sir.
sequence of how things happen. You were released from your traffic stop
Yes, sir.
with nothing.
Yes, sir.
At some point you thought about it and thought, why was I stopped in the first place?
At the time that I even got stopped, I was already thinking that. From the time that they pulled off and was already creeping from the side, I was already feeling that. I already had been in this position, like, where, you know, officers mess with you and try to come out to you for some type of reason or whatever, things like that. Or so, you know, like when they try to run this little game on me, it's like, you know, it's nothing new to me.
Okay.
And I just don't react the way that I used to, like reacting, because like I just learned to be, go about things the right way now, instead of, getting mad at them about it and things like that. So now I take it to, I write my complaints and I, you know, bring it to somebody's attention and go about it the right way and doing things like that. And that's why I'm here today.
Because as you thought about it, after you were released with nothing, you thought about it more, and that's when you decided to write your complaint.
Yeah, I believe, yeah, because I went down there that next morning. I was probably there like 7 o'clock or right when them doors open or something. Or I probably went down there, maybe I went down there, it was, I know I went down there early.
Okay.
It was like early.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Mr. Reed,
Yes, sir.
you said that the ticket was issued to you on the 9th.
Yes, sir.
How do you know that it was issued on the 9th?
I have paper and documents too that it states it on here. It said date issued the 9th right here, and then also these 2 sheets of paper.
Is it okay if we can have a look at those, please?
It's one more too, ma'am.
And while we get those, do you happen to have a copy of your written complaint that you...
Yes, I do.
It's in your packet.
Oh, but that's a response stuff.
That's the appeal.
Yeah, I don't see the original.
I think it's this thing that's all marked up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. The 6th is a Saturday, but you said you went to the police station the next day? Are they open, that lobby area, or where'd you go?
Yes, I went down there, yes, because it's a phone out there, but it normally be like captains or somebody down there. And I went down there so I can get the complaint paper because the complaint paper is there. So there's no way that you can get the complaint paper unless it's online or somewhere like that. But from the last one that I wrote, I got it from down there. And so I went down there and waited on someone to come and had to wait till someone come. And I was out there for quite a bit. Had to constantly keep calling and stuff and try to get somebody in there to give me the paper that I needed.
And you talked to the officer that dealt with you the night before? How did you know?
Nope. And then
how'd they know your case? Or they
didn't. It's like when I went down there, I can't remember, but it was like they didn't want to. I believe someone on that shift had known, but they try to take you around and give you a runaround and things like that. But really, giving me the runaround, they just made it harder for the woman that was working down there because she even told me, like, yeah, it was just hard for me to find it, things like that. I was like, yeah, I know. And when that officer that I knew that gave me the paper, he could have easily found that person's name. And Even when I went down there not too long ago where I almost got done the same way and I wrote a complaint on this woman. And the guy was trying to take me, you know, and try to play games with me and things like that, try not to give me her information. And then I was like, well, I can give you her vehicle number right there. Her vehicle number is, you know, it's a 4-digit number on there. It's only one vehicle out there with 1631 on there. And at this time, there's only one person that could be driving that vehicle. It's just like a U-Haul vehicle or business company vehicles. They got numbers on the side of them. So if you get the numbers on the side of them, and then the time and the date, you're gonna be able to identify who was in that vehicle or who had the right to that vehicle at that time.
Oh, you're talking about the police car number?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Could we have a copy of this at the end before Reed leaves, please? Oh yeah, sorry, that's wrong. Pass that to.
Anything else for Mr. Reed? Certainly appreciate you taking the time to come here and
Yes,
speak to
ma'am.
us about this.
Yes, ma'am.
At this point, I invite the Office of Professional Standards forward. Mr. Reed, you may have a seat, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, my name is Chuck Mason. I'm the inspector with the Office of Professional Standards at KDPS. So PCR 2024-0001 was filed by Deshane Reed on January 7th of this year. His complaint stemmed from a traffic stop made by 2 officers on January 6th who were assigned to enforcement related to mobile nuisance parties. Mr. Reed was not arrested or cited as a result of the stop, but his vehicle was searched after officers observed open liquor bottles in the passenger compartment. Mr. Reed filed a complaint with KDPS the following day. In his complaint to the Office of Professional Standards, Mr. Reed alleged that officers racially profiled and harassed him. The Office of Professional Standards investigated Mr. Reed's complaint by interviewing him via phone, reviewing body-worn camera video, reports, and documentation, interviewing both involved officers, and reviewing applicable laws, policy, and procedure. Just a note on mobile nuisance parties, which is kind of the, I guess, the enforcement foundation, which was the reason these officers were out there that day. So mobile nuisance parties have impacted Kalamazoo for years. I'm sorry, is this cutting out or is it? Okay. Okay. These mobile parties have resulted in murders, countless shooting incidents, assault, vehicle crashes, property destruction, delays in emergency care, rampant public drug and alcohol use, and excessive noise from crowds, car engines, squealing tires, and stereos. Public safety has tried numerous strategies over the past many years to combat MNPs to varying degrees of success. And to this day, the department continues to dedicate substantial resources to them. This past weekend, for example, saw 3 straight nights of issues related to mobile nuisance parties, which required the attention of the majority of the city's officers. But on the night of this incident, January 6th, several officers were working an overtime shift with the specific mission of conducting enforcement activities against MNPs, and the involved officers in this case were specifically assigned to that purpose. So on the night of this incident, officers had positioned themselves across the street from the Shell station at 491 West Michigan Avenue, and they were in the car dealership lot, Orrin Hayes lot, kind of positioned behind rows of cars. Now, this business is a primary hotspot of mobile nuisance parties. On weekends where these occurs, this lot often fills up to capacity several times over the course of a single night, requiring officers to clear it out over and over again. So on January 6th, officers were monitoring the Shell station after the lot became busy with cars, potentially signaling the start of an MNP gathering. During that time, officers observed a gray Jeep in the lot, which sat for approximately 10 minutes without the occupant or occupants patronizing the business. No one went in or out or used the gas pumps. So this type of behavior, I guess, patronizing a business, sitting in the lot without doing anything additional, especially with other cars kind of that are, getting busy or filling the lot, people just hanging out essentially can signify, I guess, the development of an MNP. So the Jeep eventually pulls out and turns onto Academy. Officers noted a malfunctioning license plate light, and they conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle in the 500 block of Academy. So when the vehicle stopped, the officers stepped out and made contact with the driver, who was identified as Mr. Reed. PSO Walsh explained the reason for the stop, and Mr. Reed explained that his vehicle belonged to his girl. And PSO Walsh said he wouldn't write him for the equipment violation since the vehicle was not his. But during this time, or during the contact with Mr. Reed, PSO Walsh observed open containers of alcohol sitting in the back seat, which Mr. Reed acknowledged that they were there. PSO Walsh explained to Mr. Reed that he was going to dump them out, but that he would conduct a probable cause search of the vehicle for any additional contraband. So I have Mr. Reed step out of the vehicle, and he stands by with PSO Mesman while PSO Walsh conducts the search, which took 2 minutes. PSO Mesman and Mr. Reed have a very cordial conversation in which they discuss a range of topics. During this conversation, PSO Mesman pointed out the malfunctioning plate light. You can see him in the body camera video. He has either he or Mr. Reed stands in front of the cruiser headlights to point out it is malfunctioning. Mr. Reed sees it and acknowledges it, and later on he's able to actually correct the issue by just kind of playing with the light. At the conclusion of the search, Mr. Reed re-enters his vehicle. PSO Walsh intended to issue Mr. Reed a citation for the open container, but had difficulty getting the in-car computer to print, and he eventually abandoned his effort and told Mr. Reed he's free to leave. So during my interviews with both officers, they both acknowledged the purpose of the patrol was proactive mobile nuisance party enforcement. When they observed Mr. Reed's vehicle at the Shell station, neither of them knew who was in it, how many people were in it, or the race of any of the occupants. Mr. Reed's vehicle, I guess, caught their attention because it had been sitting there for a prolonged period of time, considering, I guess, other vehicles, when you watch a gas station, you see kind of traffic patterns. People come in and out, they go in the store, they use the pumps. This vehicle hadn't done that. So it's critically important in an analysis of this case to consider all the facts together, right? Context. So we just can't take one particular thing out and say this is the reason why. So these officers have repeat experience dealing with kind of these mobile gatherings. They're familiar with behaviors associated with them. They know how the ebb and flow of businesses, and they observed this vehicle in a downtown business whose occupants were not patronizing it. So they can subsequently conducted a stop on that vehicle for a traffic violation, which is the reason why that they stopped his vehicle, right? So they've got evidence that, hey, we might have something else going on here. They find a legitimate traffic offense to stop it for, which is the reason for the stop. But law allows us to investigate further once we have a vehicle stopped for a legitimate reason. They did not know who the driver was. They did not know who was in it. They were unfamiliar with Mr. Reed. They had a valid reason for the stop. They conducted a proper search based on their observations. They observed open liquor bottles in the car, which gave them probable cause under law to conduct a search for the vehicle for additional contraband, which they did. And it's law enforcement officers often must make decisions based on incomplete and piecemeal information. Now, we will hope that they do it right, and they hope that they at least kind of build the case before they do it. based on their observations, supported by their own training and experience. And they're not always correct. In this case, it's probably likely that Mr. Reed wasn't involved in the M&P. I'm willing to admit that, absolutely. But in this case, they took action that was within policy and the law for articulable reasons without racial animus. And so for this reason, Mr. Reed's complaint was determined to be unfounded, which means that the alleged conduct, the profiling and harassment did not occur. I want to address the citation that Mr. Reed received, or I guess the summons that he received from the court. I don't know about the issue date on there, why it says the 9th. So to kind of explain to you what happened, PSO Walsh had intended to issue Mr. Reed a citation for the open intoxicants in the vehicle. So he initially didn't intend to because of the equipment violation, but obviously he discovered the additional violation was going on. He wrote the citation on the computer, but it's funny enough, this is the same thing we happened in our last appeal. The computer failed to print, right? So despite PSO Walsh's extended efforts to troubleshoot the system. So eventually he abandoned his efforts and told Mr. Reed he was free to go. But unfortunately, the computer had issued a citation in the system. So one had been issued, it just didn't print. I caught the error on January 17th when I was doing research for this case. I contacted the court directly, went up the chain. I said, hey, Mr. Reed looks like he was issued a citation for this case. He was not notified of it and requested a nolle prosequi, which is essentially a request for dismissal of the charges because I obviously didn't want him to miss a court date. Of course, at that time, I didn't realize he had gotten anything in the mail from the court. So I was thinking to myself, okay, well, he didn't get notified of it. We can squash this right where it begins right now. Unfortunately, he did receive a summons in the mail, which required him to have to go to the court. So it was an error on the officer's part not to check the system on the back end. But during my interview with the officer, we had a conversation about, hey, this is what happened. This is what you do to take steps to prevent it in the future. And I guess this is what you should have done to have prevented this from happening. So it was addressed at the time, and it was inadvertent. Are there any questions?
What was the citation for?
Possession of open intoxicant.
And just for clarification, I don't know if you are able to even answer this question, but just following up on Mr. Reed's claim that the way that it was dismissed, it means that it could potentially be brought back up at another time. Is that correct or not?
Yeah,
or?
that's correct. I guess when the state with a nollie, what we call it nollie pros, when it does that, it's just essentially dismissal of charges. And this is on the court side of things. Mm-hmm. Generally, when something is done like that, that's kind of getting into the weeds on, I guess, things on the court side. But when we dismiss a ticket, like we don't have, from our angle, don't have the option to, because they can dismiss it with and without prejudice. And one of those is that they don't have to, don't recharge it in the future. One of them is they have possibility. In this case, I don't know. That's kind of on the court. But we just have one thing we request. I request a nollie, the ticket goes away.
Thank you.
In the report, it says something about his information was updated with leads. Is that just you changed the address to his current driver's license or something?
Yeah,
like that?
iLeads is our in-house computer system. So we make a habit of putting in reports that his information was updated, because sometimes it's not. People have contact with somebody and then they don't update their information, so then we have old information for people. So that line in there is just, it's habitual for officers to put that in there.
And this happened in the last case. Is there some reason the police don't tell the person why they're being pulled over until they're out of the car? I never understood that.
In the body camera, I seem to remember that he did, upon initial contact with him, that they had a couple. Initially, like on first contact, he told him. Then he told him again right when he stepped him out of the car. Yeah, the light thing. Yeah.
when you say that, I'm sorry, go ahead. When you say that you didn't know who was in the car, or are you saying that the police officers didn't see Mr. Reed enter the car, or they just did not know Mr. Reed?
I'd say both. They did not know Mr. Reed, but they didn't know who was sitting in the vehicle, I guess. Prior to the stop, they wouldn't know whether it was one person in it or a couple people in it, but they knew from their vantage point a little distance away that no one had gotten in or out.
Okay, so they saw him, they saw the car just sitting there, but they couldn't tell whether a person was in it or not in it, or did they see him go into the gas station, come out and get in the car? They didn't see any of that.
No,
right?
they didn't. From their statements to me, they sat and watched for about 10 minutes with no one exiting or entering the vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, I have another question.
Yes, Mr. Cole.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ebony, go ahead.
Ms. Hemphill.
Go ahead, Ebony, I'm sorry.
So when the officers told Mr. Reed he was free to leave, did they tell him he was free to leave with or without taking the
They didn't mention anything to him. So, yeah, that in this case, the officer's intent was to write a case later on, which unfortunately he would have gotten a notice in the mail of that happening, which was not what happened in this case. But
Would the officers consider a mobile nuisance party to be actively happening at the time of this stop?
No, one had not been declared. I would call this more proactive enforcement than anything else.
And what is the typical time of day that these mobile nuisance parties are typically happening and the police begin to patrol for?
I would say any time between 10:30, 11, all the way to 6 in the morning.
Wow.
Okay. And then something was mentioned like the participants of the vehicle had behaviors of the mobile nuisance party. Could you specify like what are because he said he was just basically sitting there brushing his hair, maybe thinking about life for a second.
Sure. I would simply say that was a lot of times when we see these type of events occur, you have multiple vehicles, or you have vehicles that basically pull into a business and they don't patronize it, just hanging out. And I think that's what it was right there. Somebody just in a business, pure not to be patronizing it, they're just hanging out.
Thank you.
Certainly.
I'm curious about the summary on notes and narratives. Mr. Reed admitted that the liquor was his, however, that they were old bottles. Reed was cited on scene for open intox and released. And then at the bottom, it says, during the search, I recovered the 2 empty bottles of liquor and disposed of them accordingly. So, I'm curious about what kind of trouble I'm going to get in with returning
cans or whatever bottles. Yeah.
Yeah. And it says that he recovered 2 empty bottles of liquor. So the idea of liquor leads me to something beyond beer. Should that be differentiated or not?
Between liquor and beer?
Yeah, like it could have been 2 fifths of Jack Daniels empty, from what this says, or it could have been 2 beer cans empty.
So in my review of and I have to go back to my memory here. I don't recall in my review that those bottles were empty because he poured them out on camera.
Had clear liquid inside.
But there's no real distinction between.
Second bottle had clear liquid inside. Okay, where is that? Another observations. Seal been cracked on both. One of the bottles was completely empty, and the second bottle had clear liquid inside. Okay.
So that whatever I don't know what his Mr. Holbert. Sorry.
Are you done?
Well, I still have to answer his question. About the differentiation between like beer and liquor, right?
Right.
So technically under state law, if you have a bottle that's, you've got a couple of liquor bottles that are, mostly consumed or whatever, and they've got some clear liquid in them, like if they're within like reach of the driver, I mean, it's falls under an open intoxicant law. The same thing with beer. If you've got beer cans rolling around that have liquor in or beer in them, it's technical violations. Yeah.
What actual time did this take place?
I think it was just after 11 p.m.
And just for clarification, based on what you were just clarifying regarding the open container law, it doesn't matter the type of alcohol that it is. It's just like if it's open beer cans or bottles of hard liquor, it doesn't matter. So if you have that to the reach of the driver, that falls under that law. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And could you clarify again approximately the number of cars that might have been around in the Shell station?
I don't have a number. I just have the statements from the officers saying that there were a number of, and I know that it's redacted in your report being a Garrity statement. The officer said that the lot had been full of vehicles. So I don't know how much longer before the stop was made or how much longer before he pulled out. So.
Thank you.
Did one of these mobile parties happen that particular night?
Yes, so I happened to be working an overtime shift this night. That wasn't at this location. I was at another one. Yes, at two different bars.
Other questions for Inspector Mason?
Is there a difference between the line that says observation and vehicle search? And I'm going back to it because the observation says one bottle was completely empty and the second bottle had clear liquid inside, and that's under observation.
Okay.
And then vehicle search, it says 2 empty bottles. So I was wondering if there was.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that because if my recollection on camera, the officer pours out one of those bottles in front of the camera.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions?
Mr. Garcia.
I'm sorry. And feel free not to answer this because I may be outside of what the appeal is. But in order, as you already stated, that you don't get it always right, it happens. Are there, based on this particular example or any other learnings that had been taking place in order to minimize, I'm not just saying that you always get it wrong or you mostly get it wrong, but I'm just saying like to minimize even further these kind of situations where regular citizens are at the wrong place at the wrong time, to call it that, and perhaps that doesn't answer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're...
Yes, I'm very glad you asked that question. So I'll use my personal experience. As professional standards, I don't get out and work the street on uniform all that often anymore, but occasionally I do. I like to keep a little bit of perspective. So I worked this past weekend on Saturday night and an opportunity to observe officers' actions as they were addressing a pretty decent-sized party at the Shell station downtown. We have utilized, and again, this is outside this appeal, but I just want to provide some information just because we're always trying to improve, right? Whatever it is. We've used or started to use drones for the specific job of making observations, taking notes, identifying specific vehicles, specific people, so that we are rather than kind of taking a quick glance maybe from a covert position, now we have high definition video from above where we can see exactly what's happening. All right, who's out burning their tires in the parking lot? Who's drinking in the parking lot? Who's carrying a gun that we can see sticking out of somebody's shirt or whatever? So we're using technology, kind of taking a pause before these issues are addressed, to take in the observations, noting who are the problem issues in this parking lot that we need to address right away. So again, hopefully reducing the chance that someone who's maybe not involved or who's just stopping by, who's like literally like, I just need gas, it's less likely to be, I guess, targeted.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
At this point, I would like to close the hearing, and the members of the board will convene to a closed session to deliberate regarding Mr. Reed's complaint. So thank you so very much, and you will be hearing from us within the 14 business days as to the decision of the board.